It's the end of the season. You know what that means. We've got to talk about it, and mainly with you guys in today's Arsenal phone-in show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is our Arsenal phone-in show. Joining you the few days now, to be fair, after the conclusion of the 24-25 Premier League season overall, of course, not just in domestic competition as well. And it's been a season to discuss, and that's what we're going to try and do today. Apologies that there was no 8 a.m. show this morning. It genuinely completely slipped my mind yesterday that I had a family engagement. And in the throes of kind of just talking about the show, I was so excited, of course, for the transfer show to be on today. And it slipped my mind that I had other plans going on, which I, of course, put in the post this morning, which, it's not the nicest thing in the world, so I won't bore you with it. But I'm very happy for very thankful, very graciously accepting of all the kind messages that you sent through. So thank you so much for all of those kind messages. They do mean a hell of a lot, and it shows you again just the brilliance of this community, to be fair. But we're going to be here till around 6:30 UK time. I'm going to try and give myself a really strict time limit to this. So just giving people a heads up. If you do join the call now, you've probably got a good chance of getting on the show, I'd say. But if you join the show later on, it's not going to be as easy to get on the show. So you've been warned right at the beginning. There should be no complaints later on. We do kind of do a first come, first serve basis. So I can only apologise if we don't get you on the show a little bit later. We'll just be aware we'll be live for the next just under 90 minutes or so. But good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you joining in the chat box. Tomorrow, of course, will be the first Arsenal transfer show of the summer. So I look forward to that. Good morning to good morning. I'm saying good morning like I'm doing an 8 a.m. show. Good afternoon, good evening to you all. Grantley Poo, Stephen, we've got Mubarak, we've got Tavo, we've got Claire, we've got Ant and Granddaddy Gooner Paul, we've got Paul James, we've got Sir Nicholas, John, Gooner Works, Jack. Thank you to you all, and plenty of others as well. Jay, what a pleasant surprise doing an afternoon show. It's also nice. A lot of our Western listeners often don't get the chance to tune into many shows these days live because we don't do too many shows beyond the 8 a.m. So it's good that we can broaden our live listenership as well. Let me give you the rules of how this works and how we do this. Effectively, it's easy when you have the StreamYard app. I would recommend downloading that. You don't need it, but it is a much more simple process to join into these calls if you have it. But you need to be over the age of 18, of course. It's a primary. You need to be on webcam, and you need to have a quiet area to record, so no background noise. So hide yourself away in a room somewhere in the house if you want to join in. But we've already got some callers coming in, which is absolutely fantastic. Today's show is all about the season, kind of talking about some of the topics, some of the feelings that we've got, perhaps broader feelings about how things are being discussed these days, and the view more broadly about Arsenal's campaign on many elements. But we're going to jump straight into things with our first caller, who is a regular of these phone-in shows, and it's Bobby. How you doing, Bobby, mate? You good? You well?
I'm very good, Tom. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Not too shabby indeed, all things considered. So talk to me about what you want
today,
to talk about.
by the way.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate that. Tell me what it is you want to talk about.
Just as a season, as a review, I think it's been a positive one, in all honesty. I think if we look at the teams that we exited both cups to, so PSG, who knocked out Liverpool, who are evidently the best team in the league, Newcastle, who also beat Liverpool in the final. So I think on the cup front, we weren't as poor as people think. So if you think Liverpool were hands down the best team in the country this year, and we went out on both competitions to the team that beat them essentially on both occasions. So I think that's a really positive. I think obviously injuries were horrendous this year. So and we had a lot of bad luck in terms of refereeing decisions. But I think we've found some real gems in the team this year. So like we've got Miles Lewis Skelly. I think Timber coming back from what he's had to endure was brilliant. Rice's elevation, I think it's been a really positive season. And doing what we did to Madrid and this at the stage we did it as well was really good. And the way we've come across from many of the big games. So I think everything's set up for a really positive season next year, which I think everyone can agree with.
Yeah, I hope we got a positive season coming up, because I get where you're coming from in terms of taking kind of the positive side of what happened. I didn't enjoy it. I'll be honest with you. There was elements I certainly enjoyed of the season, the Real Madrid game, the get those cup runs and going further in the cup competition, certainly, which has been an aim of this. But I wouldn't put it down as, for me, an enjoyable season. I really did struggle with a lot of it. The self-inflicted nature of some of the kind of issues that we did deal with, the shortness in the squad that wasn't dealt with in summer, and of course subsequently in the January window, I felt really did harm us. But I think absolutely it's fair to point out the context of the players that we missed, and the fact that our key rivals in Liverpool this season didn't have those same issues. And then, of course, Manchester City lost really one or two. I think John Stones obviously was out, but the main one being Rodri, and that just those two really did undermine their entire campaign. And in the end, finished trophyless as well, against the FA Cup final, being beaten by Crystal Palace there, but fell out of the title race obviously very early on indeed. I think you're right that it sets us up next season to do a lot this summer. But are you confident, Bobby, that first of all we're going to get it done, and secondly, who is it you think? Not necessarily who, but broadly, like, what is it you think we need to recruit into this team?
I think we're being a bit too dramatic in terms of like the signing requests. Like, for example, if you asked anyone at the beginning of the season last year,
Mm,
would they think Kai Havertz scores 20 Premier League goals or
mm.
close to 20 Premier League goals? Anybody would have said yes in a lone forward position.
I don't know if everyone would, but fair
But
enough.
the
Yeah,
majority, even the most of the pundits would have expected him to have scored a lot of goals, and then
sure.
obviously injuries have hampered. And
He was on for a 20-goal season in the Premier League before he got his injury. Yeah, he was tracking towards that. Yeah,
so if you add that into the equation, we finish off in a much higher position. Obviously, giving some reinforcements like another forward, I'm confident we'll do it, and I think everything that's coming out of Arteta at the minute is saying that we will do what we need to do in terms of a forward, a wide winger, and all these aspects. The only concern I've got is this is the first time I've seen Liverpool look like they're going to have a very expensive summer in terms of signings. So, like
mm,
Verts, Frimpong. So, we can do essentially what we need to do to improve where I believe we could improve in. But are they elevating themselves to an even higher level with some of the signings they're bringing in? Obviously, it's all paper talk and
sure.
the equivalent of that. But if they were to get Inverts and Frimpong, and just say we were to get either a Jokeris or a Sesko, I think both of them improve us. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I don't think either of them make us worse. And I think I'd
no,
like to see maybe either of them. I think people saying that Sesko's improving. I think you've got to bear in mind you've still got a Havertz there. You know what I mean? You've still got a Kai Havertz there, and I think anybody discounting Havertz is, you know yourself, Tommy was tracking for a 20 Premier League goal a season, and this is the first season in many that he's been injured, which is why Mikel brought him in. And I think it's just bad luck. I really do think it's bad luck, and it happens in anything, like whether you go and get injured in the gym or something like that. It can happen to
sure.
anyone. So I
Um,
think we're in a good positive position for next year.
just the last one before I move on. Trophy a must next season, right?
Hopefully, yeah, of course it is. Yeah, I'd
Mhm.
love to see a trophy come in next year. Yeah, but a must in terms of does he go if we don't win a trophy?
I don't think I've the post I've nailed myself to is that he has to deliver a title in this contract to earn the next one. That's
That's
where my
fair.
stance is.
That's fair.
Um, I don't know if I'd say it's a must, but I'm saying that I feel as though it feels like it's a must. Like, it feels like next season a trophy. If Arsenal went trophyless next season, it just wouldn't be a very nice place to be. And if you say we repeated the same season we've had this season, went out of the Champions League in the semi-finals, League Cup in the semis, didn't win the FA Cup, and finished second for a fourth season running, like, it sounds really entitled, but it wouldn't be a very nice. I know this fan base. Like, I know it's not going to be a nice place to be if that happens again.
I think, yeah, I get what you. Obviously, I'd love to have seen the trophy, and I think this year
Mm,
we were if we'd beaten PSG, I think that would have been incredible. And I just thought we were very unfortunate, just the way things panned out. And same with Newcastle, like that. Those games, the Newcastle games, were gutting. I think we could have done so much more in that game, in both of those legs, and it just didn't work for us. But I don't think we'll have that issue next year. I think we do win a trophy next year, and I think we go even further in the Champions League. And the title, you can't feel entitled enough to win the title. I think it's such a sketchy thing to say, and even with a trophy, it's ridiculous to say. Look at how many years it's taken PSG to get to where they are, and how many years it took City and Liverpool over that period. I think it's a really hard thing to expect that of someone. I don't think you can do that really. But as long as we see progression next year, and if we were to win it next year, I think we're definitely in the conversation, aren't we?
Yeah, you get to the stage now where progression is like, it's as Arteta said in the last press conference to me when I asked the question, he was like, we're this kind of far away. So if Arsenal do progress, you'd imagine the only way really to progress is to take that step, if you know what I mean. Bob, it's always a pleasure to catch up with you.
Thank you so much, Tom. Much appreciated.
Thanks, mate. Speak to you soon. Lovely stuff. Let's get Benny on next. Benny, mate, how you doing, mate? You good, you well?
Yep. Can you hear me?
I can. I can just see you as well. You're like poking just up the top of the.
Let me come a bit closer. How's that?
Man. Yeah, you're all good, mate. You're all good.
Well, yeah, Tom, I must say it's been a tough season. But before before we go into it, I'm gonna give some thanks for you putting up with loads of fans and troll abuse for the whole of the season.
Sometimes in the mornings, I'm a veteran now, Benny. So yeah, you know.
Sometimes in the morning I see your face and I'm like, oh my God. And then I see the chat and I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be one of those days. Yes. So I have to thank you, Harry, Simeon, and Charles Watts. You've been kind of the light in a very, very bleak season. And I'm sure loads of people in the chat would also agree with me, because like, if I didn't have you guys, the three of you, I got like, there'll be nothing to kind of look forward to.
Oh, that's very kind of you to say. So thank you, Benny. I appreciate it.
The three of you have been excellent. So for me, the season overall, Arsenal, I'll give a 6.5, and I break it down. The team as a whole has been excellent with what they've had. I would give them an 8.5, because obviously the injury situation with that team, who was expecting the team that we had to actually go and beat Real Madrid? So
the team, Mikel Merino up front in the Bernabeu.
I don't think that's mentioned enough that Mikel Merino was up front against a starting Madrid defense. So I have to give the team high marks. For Mikel, obviously he does lose some marks on where he finished, but I still would have to give him high marks, because I don't think any other manager with I think somebody in Arsenal TV, Fan TV said we had about 25 injuries, 25 to 27, were the highest amount of injuries this season. And it's not an excuse, because really we should have planned for it. But I don't think any other manager is taking like almost the whole of his first team injured and still being able to go through Madrid and still get a result. So like, still have to give the manager props for that. Not a lot of managers will be doing that. Like, you see where Tottenham finished, and then you have to understand the size of the task you have to do in terms of like keeping your standards up. The board, unfortunately, I have to mark the board down. It's a 4 or 5. Like, and I know people are saying don't blame Jason Eto'o for what has happened, because it's not.
I don't think anyone said don't blame him. I think he's certainly worthy of blame from January.
Like, somebody in that board has to have the blame. Like, first, the Sterling signing, I'm still peeved off about it. Like, for me, obviously, when he came in, and I'm sure for you, you'd be like, oh yeah, Sterling is 29, he probably can do something. But really, if we have our P's and Q's on, if the people in the scouting department they should take some accountability, because that was a shit show in terms of getting Sterling in and seeing what everybody saw the product, and unfortunately it was just not good enough. And that is a waste of a season where we could have brought another body who would have been able to contribute even more than him. So I'm sorry, so the board has to get the blame for that.
Yeah,
this
that's fair enough. Yeah, I don't have any qualms with it. Yeah.
They could have really bought in someone better. And I don't want to rag on Sterling because he's probably got ragged on here and there. But
I mean, I don't really have. I don't. We've criticised him in games where his performance hasn't been good enough, but it's not a surprise. I can't. It's not like he's come in and we're expecting him to be. There was zero expectation, and he delivered. So
and the thing is, you can't really tell me that at the end of the transfer window, the best option we could have brought in is Sterling out of the whole of Europe.
Sure.
And you can't tell me that Arteta was like, oh yeah, I really want, like, out of all the options in the market, I'm really gonna take Sterling. And then we also kind of consolidated it in January, where we decided not to bring anybody in, where we were so close to performing so well in the Champions League. I think if we had a proper striker in the Champions League, maybe we'd have brought in Kashvili from instead of him going to PSG. If he came
to
we would probably I would be planning to go to Munich now with just those extra bodies, or even probably even Arsenio that went to Villa.
Asensio, we couldn't have brought in Rashford because obviously we had two Premier League loans.
I don't even want Rashford, but
I feel like Rashford would have been better than Sterling.
The point is that there were opportunities for the board to do something, and
they did.
I really have to mark them down.
Yeah.
So in terms of my other points, Miles Skelly, excellent season. I don't think anybody was expecting that. We got to give that guy more props. He's only 18.
Yeah.
He's only 18. So that is like a relief that we have that kind of player there. Gabriel and Saliba partnership is still progressing. So if those two can keep fit and we can kind of tie them down to contracts, I'm so happy with the progress the defense have made. Unfortunately, while the defense has made some progress, the attack has just I'm sorry, Martinelli and Trossard. I know we need to keep in squad players, but I don't think either of them are good enough for the starting Arsenal team. If we want to push on to the level of being champions of Europe, champions of England, we cannot win with either starting if we go into the new season with Martinelli and Trossard starting on that left-hand side, I can't see us winning next season. Saka needs help. So, people know how to play us. They know that, okay, Odegaard, mark out Saka, maybe mark out Havertz, and that's it. Just mark that side of the pitch, because when Martinelli faced Ashley Young and could not get past him, I knew he was finished that day. If you can't get past the 40-year-old Ashley Young and you're almost half his age, then why are you starting for Arsenal? We really need to bring him better. So I would really hope,
and it sounds like that is a plan to bring in a wide forward. Yeah.
And then the last point is I'm really looking forward to Max Dowman. I don't push the expectations, though.
Which you are doing right now.
What he is doing at the moment, I'm like, oh my God, I'm really looking forward to that caliber of player, because if anybody hasn't watched him in the chat, please go and watch some highlights of this kid. He is coming.
On the 17s Euros World Cup.
Yeah, on the 17s Euros. And he's only 15. He's only 15. So he's playing in a senior age group. In a year or two, we'll be singing this guy's name.
Well, we said the same about Charlie Patino. So I'm always kind of
no, come on. Give this guy his credit.
No, I'm not giving him credit. I'm just trying to temper.
Sure. Max Dowman is more talented than he's a kid. The way he's he's up there. But
let's see how he gets on in preseason.
Yeah, those are my points. Once again, thank you, Tom, for putting up with us. Obviously, people take care of your mental health. I know we didn't win this season. I'm hopeful. I'm not yet at the Arteta out stage, I'm getting there, but I'm not yet there. I'm hopeful. I'm going to give him this season. Like I said, it depends on circumstances, injuries, and all what have you. But I still have faith in him. I'm a very pessimistic person, because when Arsene Wenger was losing it, I was like, okay. I was actually one of the first people to say, Arsene Wenger, you need to leave, because you can't challenge. But Arteta, at the moment, I'm not yet there, because yes, people say the style of play is being affected, but
I think he just dealt with what he had this season.
Yeah. Some of those players need to step it up, or
his philosophy style of play last season was beating more teams than the Invincibles managed, scoring more goals than the Invincibles managed. Like, the potential of that philosophy. This season, he weren't backed, as we've just discussed there. Like, the board have let down the club in terms of recruitment in the summer, and particularly in January, and as a result, we suffered.
And his attackers have they've not done their work. Like,
they've not delivered. First time in 101 years we've not had a Premier League goal scorer in double digits. Exactly. Damning, yeah. Benny, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much for your listenership over the season. I really appreciate it, pal.
Thank you.
Have a good summer, man.
You too. Bye.
Lovely job. Next up is Abdul. Let's go to Abdul. How you doing, mate? You good, Joel? Take yourself off mute and
Hey Tom, how are you?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Not bad. How are you?
Good. Yeah, so it was a roller coaster of a season, I think. The game against Real Madrid was definitely the peak of the season, I would say. That was it was beautiful. Watching us finally get the win against them, and in a deserving manner. We wiped the floor with them, which was nice to see. But the problem is that it's inconsistent. There's a lot of inconsistency in the squad, and I don't know whether it's them pushing so hard to try and go one up, and if that doesn't work, then everything else breaks in the squad. I don't understand. But it's been a struggle watching them this season for sure, and I kind of feel like we're using Martinelli as a scapegoat here, kind of to just blame him, and he's not good enough for the squad, or the kid's talented, he's still young, he's still learning, he's still improving. He's had a dip. I get it. Every player has a dip. I remember Saka at one point. Everyone was saying he wasn't good enough under I think it was under Emery or right after he left, something like that. Like, Saka was still a kid. He was still, and it was Martinelli who was outperforming Saka at that point, and people were asking for Martinelli to play more minutes. But I think it's just that we're just using him as a scapegoat. There's not enough support on the left-hand side for the man to actually go back to the way he was playing for us in the previous seasons.
Sure.
I think Odegaard, his injury kind of messed up his game as well. Even when he came back, he couldn't go back to the level that he was playing at the start of the season. In my point of view, Saka was fantastic, because even after his injury, he still came back and was still doing wonders for us. So that was great. Losing our defensive lineup really hurt us. Like, Jacob Kivior was definitely good stepping in and did great, but I still feel like Gabriel would have gave us just a little bit more at the back. His presence is just more demanding. He's just like a force of nature at the back, which intimidates for me the other team, where it's not that easy just keep going past him when he's in the defensive lineup. And I do feel like once he wasn't there, Saliba had a slight dip in form as well.
Yeah, he did.
Which kind of hurt us as well. So that's kind of
a lot of big players we're talking about missing, isn't
it? Yeah, it's
Gabriel,
it's really unfortunate. The injuries were pretty unfortunate for us this season. Definitely hurt us, but I still don't think we would have we would have maybe the Champions League. We would have had. We would have went maybe past PSG. Had a good shot at the at winning the whole thing, but I don't think we would have caught up to Liverpool. No chance. Even if
I don't think that's a wild point. If say hypothetically Arsenal had Saka available, for didn't get injured, because I think his form has definitely been affected since he's come back from injury and kind of really fought to come back from injury. Had Odegaard not had his injury, had Gabriel not his injury, had we had a natural centre forward available to us in either of Jesus and Havertz, because Jesus' injury happened at a point where he looked like he was really hitting some form. He scored that hat trick against Crystal Palace.
And you know what? Like that's kind of my next point, is that when Jesus is playing, I feel like Martinelli is more in his momentum. But the problem is that Jesus kind of, every time he starts firing and gets back to his own self, where he's putting a lot of strain on his body because now he's back to his peak form, he gets injured again. His body just can't take it. I don't know what it is. It's just it just can't take it. Every time he comes back from injury, he starts firing for us and he starts playing really well. Give it another month or so, and then he gets injured again. It's really frustrating, right? And this is why in the summer window, like we were supposed to get in a striker. Like we needed a striker more than anything else, and we didn't. We ended up with Sterling, which was the most bizarre thing that I saw in the window. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Like, there's no way in all of Europe we couldn't find a striker. Like, even in the January window, like even if we just got someone to kind of just give us that additional push, you know what I mean? Like, I don't get it. Like, I am not one to like go here or there and like kind of like we should have got him. We should, because you may never know how a player ends up fitting with the team. But we have professionals who that is their job. Their job is to go and look for players who they believe are a good fit for the team. I can say bring him or like let's go for Isak, or let's go for I don't know who I know they want Isak the most. I think that's Arteta's number one.
That's the dream, but it's just not feasible.
Right? I don't know if like you never know if they're gonna fit in. Potentially, maybe with their quality, but you may never know. Like Mbappe right now came into Real Madrid, and I don't think he's doing them any favors. There's a lot of egos clashing there. Maybe a year or two down the road, they might fix their issues, but they had a whole season and they won nothing. And they got Mbappe, which is like one of the most like on-demand players or in the market, or so people thought. So you may never know how a player is going to come into a team and fit in. So that's what we have, professionals who should be doing their job. And I don't feel like they did that in the January window or in the summer window, unfortunately, which is really unfortunate. And I think that's what kind of the main reason that we were held back this season.
Abdul, before you go, one word answer: Gyökeres or Sesko?
Sesko.
Oh, interesting. I'm going to do this with everyone. I should have done that with Benny and Bobby as well. But I'm gonna
I prefer Sesko. It could be biased, but I just think he's going to offer us more.
Fair play, Abdul. Pleasure. Thank you so much for your call. Really appreciate it,
guys. Thanks. Okay. Bye.
Thank you, mate. Have a good day. See you later. Enjoy your summer. Elliot, what's the word? Stalwart of a phone-in show. How you doing, mate? You good? You well?
Tom, so happy to see you again. Congrats on your year this year, because it was certainly better than Arsenal's. If I had to phrase it, Tom, it would be when you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. Yeah, and that's exactly what happened this year. And but again, credit to the side for getting to second, credit to the side for getting to Champions League semifinals, but this was a failure of a year, to be frank.
I can't disagree with you, Elliot. Like, there's not something there I can disagree with whatsoever. So where do we go from here is the question, I guess, that comes next. What has to happen now?
We have to have a mammoth summer transfer window. Simple as that. Liverpool have laid down the gauntlet by bringing in Frimpong, Xerxes, and Wirtz, as they say. It's properly pronounced Wirtz. It's not Wirtz. It's Wirtz. Yeah, it's.
I don't. It could be Vert. I hear Verts a lot. It could be Virts. I don't know. Some people say Havertz. I don't. I don't know.
Exactly. Some sort of shadow cheese. Anyway,
I don't know what that phrase means.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, there you go. It's like a color that ladies, like chartreuse. Like, what's chartreuse? I mean, that sort of thing. I mean, Havertz. Yeah,
it's going way over my head, mate.
Way over your head. There you go.
Yeah.
But if you ask a lady what a chartreuse is, she'll know what chartreuse is.
Okay,
anyways,
I'll ask her.
There you go. There's a test for you. Anyways, over the summer, you got 3 months. Listen, yeah, I mean, listen, we went in short. Arteta said as much, and it proved to be right. Everybody kept, busting their tires out. Saka, White, Havertz, now Gabriel, and quite simply, too many injuries, too little time. We couldn't sustain a title challenge. Thank goodness we had the Champions League to keep us warm at night. Other than that, it was a shambolic year. If I have to give ratings, I would say to Arteta, I give him a 5 for what he did. I mean, we could have expected more for him, but listen. Yeah,
the manager that with 27 injuries in his squad beat Real Madrid 5-1, took us to a Champions League semi, finished second in the league despite having all of those issues. 5 is the rating.
5 is the rating for Arteta. Yes,
fair enough.
He went in short. He knew he went in short. He should have pushed more to get more guys
it's
in.
It's not his job to sign players. He said we were short. He kept on saying we were short.
He has a say so as to who is signed, Tom. So we have to give him
some
responsibility.
But you heard him in January, right? I want players. We are short. Yeah. I want a forward. We're going to try.
Yeah. Well, that brings me to the board. That brings me to the board.
Sure.
The board gets the 3. They get the lowest mark. They were terrible this year. This, as I said, was a self-sustaining year. And the Cronkies weren't going to spend. We had to eat what we killed. As it were, and the Cronkies weren't going to spend this year, so whatever we budgeted out in terms of summer sales, which we did rather good at, it was the one thing we did right this year as well. We had to spend that amount of money, and we got what we got. So for the board and for the owners, the Cronkies, I would give them a 3. They failed to prepare us this year. They get most of the blame for this. Arteta, I gave a 5. I think he did the most of what he could, but again, he could have done more. 14 draws is way too much for my liking. I think those could have been limited under 10, so that's why I gave him the 5. What else? We have and the players. I think the players played as good as they could get. They went down to injury, so I gave them a 7. So overall, it's a 5-year. I would say it was an average year overall, and it could have been it was better in certain circumstances. The run through the Champions League and our second place finish, despite it all. But again, this could have been avoided. Quite simply, could have been avoided, Tom. And no word of a lie. If we had got it right in the summer, we wouldn't be in this predicament right now. I think we could have been challenging for the league. We could have been way closer in the league. But, the Cronkies threw up their hands. The board threw up their hands. Arteta, did as much as he could, but I think he got a few things wrong in terms of tactics. And listen, players.
What were the things you got wrong in terms of tactics?
I think tactically, I don't think we were direct enough. I think we were too side to side in terms of our attack. I think he kept it. I think he kept his lockdown in the back. I think the defense is. I think our defense is elite. It's the one thing that we are elite in, quite simply. But our attack was a little too risk averse. Quite simply, I don't think we
didn't have a striker. That might be why.
and there we go. Therein lies the truth. I mean, we didn't go out and buy a striker. We could have gone out and bought a striker. We could have done it in January, for crying out loud, even if it was a loan, if it wasn't 40, 50 million pounds, but they didn't want to spend it. So here we are. I mean, we had that argument in January already. I mean, it's listen, the board did us a disservice, quite simply.
Well, I
And,
guess
they have to make up for it.
the positive from that, Elliot, is that the guy obviously who was leading kind of Arsenal's transfers in the summer is not here. The guy, of course, who was leading the transfers in January is not here. And of course, now we've got Andrea Berta in, who will be leading the transfers this summer, which I think is a good decision by the club.
The best transfer this year. Yeah, the best transfer
this year. Let's see if you're saying that September 1st, Elliot. We'll find out.
But he's making he's making good decisions right now. He's sounding out all the strikers that we would need. He's making sure that we get assurances from the player, and once we make a decision, then we can move forward. I don't know how serious the Gyökeres things are today, but again, he's still with the medic play.
I've not seen it. Obviously, I've been quite busy today with personal stuff going on, but I have not seen the Gyökeres.
I think something out of Portugal. It's out of Portugal.
Okay. I'm always skeptical. I'm always very skeptical if it's not
very skeptical. Yeah, I know. Pinch of salt stuff, but again, this is going to be like this all summer.
Yeah, of course. Get used to it. Yeah. So one word answer, Elliot: Gyökeres or Seska?
Gyökeres all day.
I have another pleasure. I've got to move on, Elliot, because I'm conscious of time. I've got a lot of callers.
Okay, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate your call. Thank you so much, mate, and pleasure to speak to you as always.
Have a great summer, Tom. Look forward to speaking to you in the fall, and continue success.
Thank you, bro. See you later. Bye-bye. Lovely stuff. Always a pleasure to catch up with our gym buddy, Elliot, as usual. It's nice to see him not up at 3 a.m. on the show for once. Let's get on Daniel, who's up next. How you doing, mate? You good, Joel?
Yeah, I'm just glad that this season
growing a bit of facial hair there, Daniel.
No.
Is that just the stress of the seasons? It's forced it. I think that's what's happened. Tell me, mate, what did you ring in to tell me and talk about?
Well, at first, I wasn't sure if I was going to phone in, but I thought, you know what, I'll give a couple of moments from my time. Sorry about that, about my phone.
Right,
I went off. Yeah.
I'd be lying if I hadn't done that myself.
Well, and to be fair, Elliot just summed up pretty much nearly all of what I was going to say. So,
let's see if you can add anything to it. Like, what he gave Arteta a 5 out of 10. He gave the board a 3. I think he gave the players a 7. I think that was what he gave them. I mean, it seems to be the theme is failed to prepare to fail is the theme of the season. And I can't stray too much from that line, to be fair.
Yeah, and what I also want to add, 21 points dropped from winning positions. Yes, I know we've had terrible refereeing decisions.
Sure.
But you've got to find a way to fight back from adversity.
Yeah.
And we didn't do that enough.
Why do you think that happened, Dan? What can you put it down to? Because it's not an easy question to ask you. I understand.
Yeah.
Why have Arsenal dropped so many points from winning positions this season? What is the reason behind that?
Style of play, possibly. Because do I technically say the season before, or do I say last season?
I think you can say last or this, and you'd be fine. To be fair, yeah.
Well,
this season just gone.
The second season we challenged Man City.
Yeah, sure.
Like we scored most goals. Yeah. 23-24. We scored the most goals in
our history in the Premier League.
Yeah.
I think ever, maybe 19, whatever it was. Yeah.
And defensively, we were pretty solid. And yes, there were individual games that we lost that cost us the title, but there was more of intent to, come on, let's go, let's go and do this. Like this season, it's become we changed. We definitely changed for the worse. We dropped so many points in critical games. Yes, bad. Some games didn't go away to the refs, but we can't keep blaming. We can't keep putting the blame on them when we haven't put the ball in
think
the back.
a lot of games this season we either scored 1 or 0 goals in, and I think that's a big part of why we have dropped as many points as we did. At the same time, we're the only third team. We're only the third team in Premier League history to ever not concede more than 2 goals across a whole season. You know, which is nuts. Like we've never. It's never been done before for Arsenal, which is kind of crazy.
Again, we've conceded the least goals.
And we've got the best defensive record. This is what I mean. It's clearly a goal scoring thing. Like it's without question. The reason we've dropped that many points, the reason we haven't amassed as many points this season is goals. It's all about goals. And Arsenal haven't scored enough goals. They haven't created enough opportunities. For me, finishing is, as I've mentioned before, for me the number one. Chance creation is following close behind that. And that's what needs to change in the summer. So my last question to you, Dan, is what needs to happen in the summer for you for that to change?
Right. Well, my answer is if the Gyökeres rumors are like solid and we do get him, then Arteta for me has no more excuses. Even though technically this season, this season just gone, he did technically meet my remit, but the thing is, the caveat to that was the how many points we dropped when we should have done more to challenge Liverpool. Because I probably stopped watching like full games since before January, to be fair, because I was just like, what's the point? But and yes, there's been some highlights like Miles Lewis Skelly, excellent. Like he's in my top 3 players of the season, along with Rice and Gabriel. I'm going to rank them in order.
Yeah,
but like what we need to do is if Gyökeres comes in and we go back to the style of play that we had in 23-24, I think that may get us over the line. It may not, but just get him in. And to be honest, like Mikel for me does not have any more excuses to not win something if we get him in, because I'm done waiting now. I'm really done.
Oh, it's so painful, mate. You should speak to my wife, who's a Charlton fan, has had to wait for Charlton for a win a trophy her entire lifetime.
Mate, my second team, who's my local team, we got relegated this season. So this season for both my teams has been awful.
It's been a tough one. It's been a tough one.
Right.
Daniel, what hasn't been tough is speaking to you. It's always a pleasure. Thank you for calling in, mate. And I was going to give you the one-word question, but you've already answered it because I know it's Gyökeres. So,
Well,
lovely stuff.
I would not mind, but like if Gyökeres wants to come, then get him in.
Okay.
All
Daniel, pleasure. Have a fantastic summer, mate. Enjoy yourself.
And you, mate. Bye-bye.
See you later. Lovely stuff. Leo is our next caller. How you doing, mate? You good, Joel?
Yeah, fine.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you for waiting patiently. I appreciate it. What is it that you've wanted to come in with today?
I think that the thing we don't talk about, we had a little discussion in chat already that I think, 27 injuries is tough. But at what point do we go from like, that's to be expected to like, it's a tough season? Like, the argument is who has that many injuries and still wins a title. I mean, it hurts my soul to say that, but Tottenham won a title and they had like 5 injuries less. So where do we draw the line?
It was the Europa League, which
we lost to Chelsea 5-0.
Well, we lost the Europa League when it had a semblance of respect about it, when it was actually a bit of a challenge. I mean, I know I sound incredibly salty when I discuss this tournament because obviously of who won it, but I would be saying this regardless of Tottenham winning it. The Europa League has become, same as the Conference League, just an awful, awful competition because of the fact that you no longer see Champions League teams drop into it. 2 teams that finished 16th and 17th, or was it 15th and 17th because United beat Villa in the table, were in the final. But that tells you everything about that competition. Like I know people are annoyed that they won it. I'm just not one of those people that care. And yes, you're right. They had the second most injuries in the league this season, and finished. If there was any team better than Ipswich, Leicester, or who's the other team that went down?
Southampton.
Yes, Southampton. Sorry, should know. I really played them on the last game of the season. They could have been relegated this season. They could have been relegated this season. We're talking about a team that finished 17th in the table.
What about Brighton then? What about Brighton? They had also 22 injuries.
22 injuries and finished, was it 8th in the end?
8th or 9th? I'm not sure.
I think it might have been 8th.
I mean, the thing is like, we could discuss like numbers here. At what many injuries do we speak about? Like, what can you prepare for, and what is like an act of God, or what do you want to call it?
Yeah. I think like the number of injuries Arsenal suffered this season is enough for it to be a talking point. It's enough for it not to be, in my opinion, an excuse, and it's enough for it to be a genuine thing to point to as to why Arsenal won. It's not just the volume as well; it's the particular players that were out and for how long they were also missing for. So I think that is the key. But for me, take the injuries away. Injuries happen to any team. You have to be ready for them, and we weren't ready for them. And that's where my gripe with what was within our control, Leo, was where we were let down.
And that's exactly my point. Like, of course, it was like a tough season in that regard, but you can't excuse a season of that kind. And I think our biggest issue, aside from the striker, which has been discussed to length, I just read this morning that aside from Gyökeres, and apparently we wanting to sign Liam Delap. I don't know how much is around that.
I mean, he'll be a player that the club have certainly watched, but he's not near the top of the list. That's for sure.
But I think one of the most important things that gets kind of a look, we still don't have a substitute for Martin Odegaard. Like, we saw this season again, if he goes out of the team, we collapse creatively. And he came back, and he obviously was fatigued, and B, wasn't playing his best since I think it was an ankle tendon issue, which tends to last. I speak from experience. And it's just apparent that we need someone that can relieve Martin Odegaard and someone that can relieve Declan Rice, because Jesus Christ, this man does not tire.
He's injured.
Yeah, but if he gets a serious injury, like imagine Declan Rice gets injured in February, like Armageddon.
Yeah.
And I think we need to strengthen there, because Georgie's on his way out. I don't know if we're gonna extend Partey. If those two go, we need a number 6. Otherwise, Declan Rice has to play box to box.
I think Partey will stay. That might. I mean, who cares what I say? I said, a few months ago that didn't look the case, but certainly that has been flipped on its head in the last month plus. But as of this moment, from what I hear, it looks more likely he will stay than not. So, yeah. But that means Partey, that means Rice, that means Zubimendi. That's 3 really good, midfield options.
Yes. Absolutely, but still not one that can substitute in for Martin Odegaard and like relieve him in the last 20-30 minutes. I think if Mikel Merino has showed one thing, he can't be that guy. I think he was supposed to be that guy that can relieve Odegaard in like less high stakes games, or like give take off half an hour from him in games that he can be at his best in the latter half of the season. And I think Merino, like character-wise and his work rate, we all think he's amazing. I won't discuss that, but he is Declan Rice in like 2 levels worse, and we don't need that in the squad at the moment. We need someone that can relieve Martin Odegaard. We need someone that can relieve Saka, and we need someone to score goals, and we need a decent second goalkeeper. Holy shit.
Yeah, no, we do. Yeah, because Neto, we were fortunate, didn't have to play many games whatsoever. It's the most Arsenal thing in the world that we loaned in a goalkeeper that was cup tied for the competition that they would play in. I
got some massive Kim Kallstrom vibes from that.
Yeah, 100%. It's so ridiculous that we did that. I mean, we got to the end of the window, we panicked because we didn't want to spend the money for Garcia, who now is not going to come to Arsenal. I'd be shocked if he comes to Arsenal, because he's in this season grown his reputation to the point where he shouldn't be a number 2. So we will wait and see. The last question I have for you, Leo, as has been Gyökeres or Sesko?
I'm with Sesko because I like him more.
Cool. Leo, absolute pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you, man. Lovely stuff. Our next caller is Diallo. How are you doing, mate? You good? You well? He's got his pen and paper out ready. He's ready to take notes, take names. Tell me what you're thinking, mate.
Hi, Tom. Can you hear me? I'm actually
using
hear you,
mate. I can hear
new
you
headphones, so I don't know if they are good enough for us.
Yes, I can hear you, mate. You're all good, pal. You're all good.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. So I had a few stuff in my mind, and I usually forget, because
I do the same, mate. I respect that 100%.
I don't even know where to start. Just to say that, first of all, I don't know if you remember this, but I think I've had some disciplinary issues in your chat. One issue.
Okay. We live, we learn, we move on. So
No, it was a joke. It was a joke, and I don't think it came across well, but it's all good. And secondly, I just wanted to touch on what the previous guests were talking about how our season, what is your appraisal or your review of the season? For me, it's really hard to say. It's hard for me to grade the season.
Sure.
And part of that is because there's just way too many variables. It's enough if you have maybe one or two variables that you can consider. But for me, it's almost like an incomplete season. It's like the grading for me would be incomplete. It's like it needs. I need more context to really grade it, because when you talk about the injuries, like you said, there are way too many injuries for them not to be a talking point.
Yeah.
But then where do you lay that to? Do you lay that to the club for lack of preparation? Yes, I think we all do. Mikel, I think you said this to Sophie yesterday. Mikel was one of the loudest people last summer saying that we are short. We need more people.
Yeah.
And in January, he was doubling down on that literally the whole month until the window closed.
Yeah.
So he certainly is not a culprit on that. If anything, he was one of the people that was shouting the most that we need players.
Exactly.
And what did they do? They gave him a Sterling who is not usable. Let's be honest here. So I think I kind of with my conscience blame Arteta for that, because I don't think he was pushing to not get players in. He was one of the loudest people. And then with the club, Edu is gone. Literally, he left after a few months of the window closing. What was happening between those months of the transfer window? Was he seriously working towards getting transfers in, or was he working towards leaving? It's hard for me to say, but how hard was he working towards the future of Arsenal if he was planning to leave in a few months' time? I don't know. And I also don't know how the board would work with him if they knew that was coming. What's the dynamics there? And then with some of the injuries, Saka got injured in England. People keep talking about that he overplayed Saka. And now they're complaining that he's not playing one area in the last 2 months.
Yeah.
Or so I'm like,
I watched a show that I watched a clip. Someone sent me a clip the other day. I can't remember who it was, but some content creator was saying how can there be a load management issue with Wineri? He's only 18, and I'm like, you've just said it. Yeah, you've said it.
That's the point. And he's played more minutes for an 18-year. I think he's one of the top ever to play this many, over 1,300 minutes. That's insane.
The number of minutes he's played. He's made over 30 appearances this season and for the majority of the season he was 17.
That is ridiculous. That's ridiculous. So for me, I understand maybe Saka has definitely played way too much football, but I don't think that's just Arteta's blame. I think that's the club for not having an adequate backup for Saka. And number two, I think he's just one of the best players on the planet. The best players, like Mikel told us 2 years ago, they play all the time. I don't hear Barcelona fans complaining that Lamine Yamal is playing all the minutes right now. But in 2 years down the line, if you get injured, then they will say, Hansi Flick, get out of here, you fraud. So anyway, the reason why I'm saying all of this is I think some of them are definitely Arteta's fault, maybe for playing Saka in that League Cup match, that he probably didn't need to play after just coming back from that England injury. But also people like Calafiori, some of those innocuous injury, and Odegaard, he just got clamped on international duty. Ben White, that's load management from the previous year. He was playing with Band-Aid on, that last season, not this season, the other season. He was playing with his hamstring tied for the last 3 months. We could see it. So and the reason for that was Timber was injured for the whole year. So I think that, and then Tomiyasu cannot stay fit. So I think part of it is Mikel can do better. He's, you learn from experience. But I think there's so many variables that are not within his control, and people, and this is what I wanted to say. I think people trying to have this conversation about this is all Mikel Arteta's fault. That's one. And the other one saying that like I think the previous guest, Tom, what's his name? The
Daniel?
last guest the last guest that you just spoke with. Leo, exactly.
Yeah.
He was pointing out that Spurs finished 17, but they won a cup, and who had a better season. I think those conversations are disingenuous.
I'm sorry, but it always makes me laugh when anyone wants to have a conversation about that. The team that finished 17th and lost 22 games in the Premier League, you want to argue about a better season than us? I'm sorry.
Those conversations are never had in good faith.
Sorry.
Whenever I hear this on YouTube, I know people are just not having them in good faith. You just cannot. So yeah, man, I don't know what to say. I just think that the season was just crap.
Crystal Palace has had a better season than Arsenal. I don't have an issue with people saying that. Crystal Palace have had a better season than Arsenal. Yeah, 100%.
I agree. Maybe even Newcastle, you could say that. Definitely.
I don't have an issue with someone saying that. They've got Champions League qualification. They want to league up. But Crystal Palace, yes, they didn't get Champions League qualification, but contextually, Crystal Palace winning their first trophy ever, playing in European competition. Crystal Palace have had a better season than Arsenal. No doubt.
I agree. I agree with that.
Tottenham have not had a better season than Arsenal. No.
No one. I think Liverpool, Palace, Newcastle. I think that's it. That's where it ends. I think Spurs is good for them. Whatever, we don't even talk about them here. But I mean, they are literally contemplating whether they should keep their manager in the job. And the reason for that is 22 losses. Can you imagine Tom going to games every weekend and losing 22 times in the league? Yeah. I don't even know what that would do to my mental health.
I still can't believe there's Spurs fans out there that think that Ange Postecoglou should stay. It's genuinely shocking.
Tom, it's disingenuous. That's what I'm telling you. Deep down, you get that huge, injection of euphoria for a week and maybe 2 weeks, and then reality kicks in. We just saw that last weekend. They lost 4-1 again at home. So I think Mikel, definitely. I think there is this. What do they say? Familiarity breeds contempt. I think he's getting there. I think some people are now looking for reasons for him to leave rather than actual legitimate, robust argument as to why he deserves to leave, or he deserves only 1 year if he doesn't win the league or the Champions League. I understand that. I think because it's been a long journey so far, even though it's only been 5 years and a half. I think I understand that people are just getting jaded, maybe, but I don't think you can look at this season and say, because of everything that has happened, that most of it was his fault. I would say maybe 10% was his fault, but I think there are way too many other things before I would put Mikel as a reason.
Yeah, I don't think that's too wild. I think the majority of the fault lies with the recruitment. The other big percentage is the injuries. Another percentage is some of the ridiculousness we've witnessed this season from an officiating standpoint. And then Arteta and the players, of course, come into that. And our finishing, our finishing has not been good enough. We've missed too many big chances this season in big moments.
We need a striker, man. We need that's the one.
Well, that's the last question I have to ask you, Diallo. Sesko or Gyökeres?
Can I elaborate after giving you my answer?
Tiny elaboration.
Okay. Yeah. It will be very short. I think Sesko is the better player. And I think for the club, for the long-term project, I think a sensible decision would be to sign Sesko. Because I don't think level-wise, I think talent-wise, right now as we speak, I don't even know if there's a big gap between them. Yes. But I think there is way too much pressure on the club to pass on a goal-scoring machine like Gyökeres. But I think that would actually concern me if they do that, because that would tell me that they are ceding to pressure, that they are acquiescing to the pressure of the masses, that obviously this 50, 60 goal scorer is right there and goals is what you need. Why don't you sign him? But I think that would concern me a little bit, because it would tell me that they are not making decisions based on their scouting and the fit. And I heard you say this to Sophie yesterday, and you're absolutely bang on. I think Sesko fits our profile better. He fits the project better. And I don't think he necessarily signing him necessarily shows that we lack ambition or anything. Because I think that guy could become like the Isak.
God.
You know,
he might cost 80 million odd quid. Like, you know, that's not lacking ambition if you're signing a 70, 80 million pound striker.
but people would look at it that way. That's what I'm saying.
I know. I think what you said was spot on. Like, Sesko for me is the more sensible signing of the two. Gyökeres potentially has a much higher immediate upside, potentially in the short term. But it's without doubt the riskier signing of the two. There's no doubt in my mind he is the bigger risk of the two. And if it doesn't pay off, it could be really bad for Arsenal.
Yeah.
But as I say, if he comes, I hope he succeeds. Diallo, thank you so much for your call, mate. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, my man. Take care.
All good stuff. Thank you, mate. Speak to you soon.
Yeah.
We've got a couple more callers to round off today's show. We've got Tayo up first, and then we're going to speak to Jay, who joins us in the chat. So Tayo is up first. How you doing, mate? You good? You well?
I am very well, Tom. Can you hear me?
I can, mate. I can. I can hear the booming tones you're sending my way right now.
It is a privilege, Tom. It really is.
Thank you, man.
I enjoy the quality of your content and your approach and your disposition and a few others in this space. So, yes, it's a privilege and an honor to be on.
I appreciate the kind words. Tell me what you've rung in to talk to me about.
I think the next ordeal for us, I think, is mental. I really think it's mental to get over the line. I know there's a lot of discussions about what type of player we might get in, or what injuries have happened, or just different things have happened across the seasons. But I struggle to take this season in isolation. I remember going to the Southampton game. I think it was the last on a bad run, so that was the 22-23 season.
Yeah.
And that game was very difficult to take because
it was a 1-1 where Lyanko should have been sent off about 3 times, I think.
No, I think it was 3-3. I think it was 3-3.
Oh, sorry, the home game. Yes, the home game.
Yeah, that home game. Yeah, that home game. It was because I just sat down and all of a sudden we thrown one in. I couldn't believe it because we had a few poor results leading up to that game. I think it was Liverpool away and West Ham away. So I thought we'd rectify it at home. And then I just saw what happened in that game, and I saw us lose our heads a bit. And we fought back to come back. But I took something from that game. I said to my friend, I said, we have to do something about Ramsdale. And Arteta had the same opinion, and he did something about Ramsdale. But I think in that same window, and this is my genuine belief, that I think we shot ourselves in the foot with a controversial signing. And this is not to disparage the player, but I think we did something that we probably didn't need to do. And 2 seasons on, the signing of Havertz, I think it's almost like, I can't find the right metaphor, but it's like we found ourselves in a situation where we could have gone in a different direction. Because apparently he was signed to be the left 8, and he struggled to play that position the way Xhaka has played that position. And moving on, I found that our style of play just changed so drastically. So previously, we played a bit fluid on the left. We had Xhaka who had the vision and the tenacity to release Martinelli. And Martinelli was not getting so much criticism that season. And I find myself criticizing him a lot since, and just a few things that have just happened since then. So I think that was the turning point, and no one could have known then we've supported the signing. But when you look back, I think that was a crucial window. And I think in that window, we signed Declan Rice, which was brilliant. We signed Raya, which was brilliant. I wanted that signing so much. We signed Julian Timber as well, which was great. But Havertz has been the one where, even though I think he's a lovely human being, he's got that lovely disposition, and he's got the kind of skills that managers like. He's got the right attitude and things like that. But I think there's a question about, did we need that at that time? And subsequently, when I see certain games, we just seem to wilt. And I think with Xhaka, we lost something mentally.
Yeah.
I think Havertz has not been able. I think the pressure just built up on him so much. He gets so much pressure. And then I think Arteta as well is getting so much pressure. Like the way we felt about Arteta 2 years ago is not the same way we feel about it now. Feel about him now. And so that's why I think, if I could just lead on to Gyökeres, I think for Arteta, so for instance, if Arteta was insisting on Šeško, I would probably advise him to. So, for instance, if it's true that Beta wants Gyökeres and Arteta wants, I think for his relationship with the fans, I think Arteta should yield. So, if it was a 50-50, and because of, again, we don't know the exact details behind the scenes, but it's been intimated that Arteta was very keen on Havertz and the Ato was keen on Havertz. And again, they saw it from a very highly tactical level, which we don't. But I think in terms of bringing the whole club together, if the most of the fan base are clamoring for Gyökeres, who's not a bad player, I think him and Sesko is 50-50. But I think Gyökeres has that. I think a bonus point in Gyökeres' column is the fact that he just won back-to-back titles. He's been in, yes, it's a lower league, but he's been in that, amount of in the heat of the battle, trying to win titles for his club. And I think that's a bonus in his column. And I think it will relieve pressure off Arteta because it will not be a case of, this conspiracy is going on in the fan base that Arteta is trying to get players in to give Havertz a buy. I think it will take the pressure of Arteta, and Gyökeres should come in and, prove a point or prove to us as the player that he is in Portugal. And if he isn't, then some of the pressure might move over to Andrea Beta. Even though I think any one of those two strikers would be a good signing. But I think Andrea Beta might want to stamp his foot on, on the club. Not stamp his foot, that sounds a bit too aggressive, but he might want to make
his mark.
Yes, exactly, make his mark. So it's just a line of thought from me because I think mentally, Sesko might not understand what he's coming into because there's so much pent up frustration. So it's not this season alone. I think it's been a build up of 3 years where we've been on the cusp of it, but it's just never really happened. And I think Gyökeres might be better suited to coming in and handling that than a Sesko, who is probably for the long term the better option. But I don't think there'll be a patience to sort of accommodate any of Sesko's potential growing pains.
I think you've summed up really well, and I don't really have too much to add at all, Tyler, because I think your argument for Gyökeres is firm and fair. Personally, I still do lean towards Sesko, and I think that the risk, as I mentioned with Diallo in the last call, I think the risk factor is with Gyökeres is far greater than the risk factor on Sesko because of the age he is, because of the league he's playing in, because of, just really those two factors are clear. The volume of penalties, of course, in his goal tally as well. And I know people turn around and say, "What? So penalties don't count?" And no, not really. Because Arsenal don't really get penalties. So we don't really get many pens at all. So that is genuinely part of the conversation. I kind of look at how the players outperform their XG to look at kind of their finishing and how good they are in those situations. And both outperform their XG in their relevant leagues well. So I think both definitely improve on what we have already. Yes. If we sign either of them, I think that they will improve us. I just feel as though the risk factor, if Gyökeres does not hit immediately, is far greater than if it doesn't for Sesko. And I think stylistically there are, for me, there's more attachments with Sesko to this Arsenal team and philosophy than there are with Gyökeres. But again, I'm still pretty torn, and as I said, I'm if either come in, I think Arsenal have landed, a goal scorer. So, and we'll see if it works. We'll see if it works. But I won't ask you that question because you've answered it already, I think, in terms of it. But Ty, thank you so much for your call and your kind words earlier. I really appreciate it.
No, it's great to get on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a fantastic summer. Lovely stuff. More brilliant calls. We had to squeeze in two more. We're gonna get Jay, who it's fantastic to get on the show to put a face to the name. How you doing, Jay? You good? Well?
Not bad. How are you, mate?
Yeah, very good, mate. Very good indeed. Good to speak to you because I know you've been an avid listener in our chat boxes. So
absolutely.
Indeed.
I think I came across your channel when we were linked with Jesus.
Right.
I think that was the time when, ever since then, we seem to get linked with a really strong player in the January. Do you know what I mean?
And then we don't sign anyone in January.
And then we don't sign them unless it's a mystery German.
Unless it's a mystery German who we're still waiting to find out.
I know.
Maybe he's going to Liverpool. Maybe that's
it could be. Yeah, exactly. Tom, I just wanted to say, mate, just to quickly give your flowers. I think what you do is very, very good. It's very, very grounded.
Thank you.
again, I know we get a lot of people in this community that perhaps don't necessarily agree with all the things that perhaps you might say. Again, I think if there's a point to be made, I feel like you are the type of guy to listen to it, even if you don't necessarily agree. And I think that's important. There are some other content creators on this platform. Won't mention them. I think we know who they are. That will just bat off any positive kind of point of view. So I think it's good that you do that, and I appreciate it anyway, mate.
Thanks. That's very kind of you to say. You didn't need to, but thank you.
There you go. A bit of a left field question, mate. Yeah, exactly. A bit of a left field question, mate. Try and sort of mix it up from the comments that we're having. So I mentioned the other day about the question with coolers, cleaners, and closers. I used to work.
I really enjoyed that. That was a really interesting kind of philosophical kind of categorization of players. Yeah.
I used to work in sales, so literally every single day we'd have a morning meeting, and majority of the stuff they'd say was a load of whatever goes in one ear out the other. Yeah. But every now and again they did come up with a good few things. I thought, you know what, I like that. I'll take that on board. And I think if Arsenal want to be successful moving forward in terms of Sesko, in terms of Gyökeres, I think Arteta has. I think he's done enough to make us believe that whichever signing he does make, I think will be a good one. Obviously, as you said, there's a debate in terms of who's going to come in and deliver us the league next year. I think for me personally, that is Gyökeres. I think if you want someone that's just going to come in and finish some of the goals that perhaps Havertz didn't do, or some of the other players like Martinelli, there's been some games this year where I feel as if he perhaps should have done a bit better in certain goal scoring positions. I think if we're looking for someone that is just going to bury good chances, not even half chances, good chances, for me personally, I think that's Gyökeres.
Yeah.
However, I think if we are going to go back to that analogy, I think we've got a lot of people in the club at the moment where they're closers, so the people that have a really good game and could perhaps get us over the line. I think maybe Trossard is a closer, but we need a cleaner. So someone like a Saka, someone like a Sleever and Gabby and Raya. Yeah. I think out of those two strikers, I think we can agree that Sesko does have the much higher ceiling. And I was listening to Arsenal.
He's more likely to be a closer than Gyökeres is, I think. Yes,
absolutely.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
And the question that I've got for you is, do you feel as if in the modern Premier League, it's more important to be powerful and dominant as opposed to someone like, I can't even think of someone off the top of my head, someone that's quick and can get into mobile areas, if you know what I mean?
I'm trying to think of a good example of who that would be, like a more diminutive, low center of gravity.
Yes.
So I always think of Lorenzo Insigne when I think of kind of a smaller player, but centre forward wise, you don't necessarily see kind of the smaller centre forwards. Alexis, when he played in that role, you kind of looked at, in that sense, but he could hold a player off. So does Saka. Saka holds players off really, really well, despite not being necessarily, on the outside shell looking the most, kind of physically intimidating. But I do look kind of the best centre forwards in the world right now, and who's putting away the most goals. They tend to be powerhouses. Like, we don't want to give him his flowers, but Harry Kane is that. Robert Lewandowski.
Okay. He's all right, mate.
He's all right. Lewandowski is one of those as well. Benzema was one of those also. I'm looking at the guys that put. I mean, Gyökeres at the moment in Portugal is something of a powerhouse. He's not aerially present, but he certainly holds players off. With his strength. He's like 6 foot, I think.
Right.
We have a quick check his exact height for you, but I think he's 6'2". So yeah, he's
okay. Yeah.
So he's nearly as tall as me. But when it comes to kind of those figures, Sesko, I think, is what, 6'5", I think, potentially. So he's massive. And
set pieces with Arsenal, we're going to be scoring them for fun. I know we have been this year and last year, but it's just another dimension of you've got Gabriel, you've got Marino, you're looking across and you've got some 6'5" blokes. Do you know what I mean?
Dan's given the great example. Aguero is probably the best example of the opposite that we were talking about there. And I think, Aguero, have we had a player come along since Aguero in his style that's really done it? Centre forward, Julian Alvarez, maybe. Is not a bad example. But as I said, the trend in 2025, if we're looking at the most prolific centre forward, natural number 9s, they do tend to be the more kind of physically imposing target man players who have got a pace and technical ability on top. But the mistake people make is that, and this is a real throwback for people who used to play not career modes, pro clubs. Pro clubs, you design your own player.
Course.
And you know that when you would like turn the dial up on how tall your player was, all of your technical and speed stats would like go way down.
Mm-hmm.
So people just naturally associate this idea that if you're taller or you're bigger or you're stronger or you're physically kind of more impressive, that you're not as quick, you're not as agile, you're not as technically gifted. But we know that's rubbish. Like, because the best players, some of the best players we've ever seen, like Cristiano Ronaldo, is an absolute monster in terms of physical presence, height, aerial ability, power, but technically is, second only, in my opinion, to Lionel Messi. So,
of course, yeah,
you're looking at kind of that, and you're thinking, I think that's maybe psychologically where people's minds go to, is that tall means less skilled,
tall means slow,
less technical. Yeah, and tall means slow, and it doesn't. But yeah, I think it's a fair question to ask, and I think that that psychological kind of view of centre forwards and footballers in general, that athleticism and technical ability and agility comes to more kind of the smaller. But actually, I think that the dominant players in that centre forward position tend to be 6'2" and up, which Gyökeres is 6'2". Sesko is bigger, and I think that Sesko is slightly, not even slightly, but I think he is technically better on the ball, better with the ball at his feet, can move the ball in tighter spaces more consistently than Gyökeres can. But if I'm being honest, if the ball fell to either of them in the box for a chance, I'd probably lean more on Gyökeres.
And I think for me, again, the more that you talk about Sesko and the more points that you're making, the more it's actually making me think, oh, maybe I'm 50-50 rather than 100% at the start of the window. But I think ultimately we, as the previous caller's been saying, we're getting impatient. I'm getting bantered by Chelsea fans, by even Man United fans, would you believe it? And I think we need to get to a stage.
They should not be going anywhere near an Arsenal fan.
Unfortunately, this is the thing with Man United fans and Chelsea fans. If they talk about if they want to have a conversation about history, their history only started between 2002 to 2022. If you want to talk about further history in terms of FA Cups and leagues that we've won more than double Chelsea's leagues, but you can't go that far back, mate.
You can't go that far. In trophies, like it's not even.
Again, you used to be a teacher, so I can't remember what it's called, but if it's almost like, for example, if you talk about the league titles that you've won with Chelsea fans, result of the Champions League, no matter what it is, no matter what Arsenal fans say, bang, you've got a result of the Champions League. But just to sort of finish my point, because I appreciate you've got Capybara waiting for the call.
Capybara's waiting.
A capybara. Good word to say that. But yeah, I think ultimately, what we also need to appreciate is Arteta came in when we were at our lowest as a football club. I was never a big fan of Emery, and he's brought back good moments for us. This year has been, perhaps we can't call it successful or unsuccessful, but I would say we've had a lot of really, really good moments this year. And I think if we can manage the small margins that have effectively lost us the league over the last couple of seasons, I think we could be in for a special season this year.
This season's been horrible. Don't get me wrong. There's been some brilliant moments, but I do think it's kind of like it's a knife edge season. That if things just tipped the other way, I think it could have been very different.
It's not been fun either. I'm not sure if you know what I mean.
It's not. The funnest things for me about this season, and it only comes from a very selfish point of view, is the places I've been able to go. That's been the best thing about this season.
Don't rub it in, Tom. Don't rub Madrid away, mate. Whilst I'm here in Rochester and it's pissing down with rain.
Hey, Rochester's nice. Let's not mug off Rochester.
Pick up Rochester.
Indeed, Jay. Genuine pleasure.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Take care. Have a good day,
I didn't ask you the question. One word: Gyökeres or Sesko?
Gyökeres.
50-50, but I'm Gyökeres. Okay, cool.
Take care.
Take care.
Have a good day, mate.
Fantastic summer. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Chat box, you were thinking, what on earth is he talking about saying capybara? Well, let's answer that question by bringing Capybara Takeover, aka Kyle, to the conversation. How you doing, mate? You good? You well?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good, mate. Please explain. Explain.
So my vocal team has a second team that I am a diehard fan of, and we came up with a random name after the team went to a zoo and a player tripped over a capybara at the zoo.
What? How does that even happen? Or did he like jump the fence, or were they like roaming around the zoo? Like,
so it's like an exhibit that you can go in, and the club captain just slipped over it, and the players just went along with the joke.
I mean, that's a kind of a cool thing to have your nickname. And people, why are you called that? Well, I slipped over a capybara.
Yes.
Oh dear, there must be a pun somewhere. Chatbox is going to have a field day. I'm sure, come out with that. Nice to speak with you, Carl. Tell me what it is you've rung in to raise.
My biggest question is, where is the thoughts on renewing everyone's contracts? And so Saliba's that's really close to running out. You have it's like that main core group that's just running out. It feels like at the same time.
The 2027s, as I'm calling them, Saliba, Gabriel, Saka, Martinelli, all of them are contracts that run at the moment till 2027. What from a journalism standpoint, all of them Arsenal want to keep. All of them Arsenal are proactive in extending. Saka, not worried at all.
Good
on that front, not worried in the slightest. Saliba, I'm kind of cautiously optimistic with Saliba. I feel as though that Real Madrid signing Dean Housen has definitely helped our situation on that front. And so I feel as though that certainly gave me confidence. David Ornstein broke the news recently that, of course, we've opened contract talks with him, but that there are significant wage demands, which I think are fair. You know, he has to be one of the highest paid players, and hopefully Arsenal will reflect that. But I think those noises were definitely positive. Gabriel's an interesting one. I think obviously that interest from Saudi exists. He's still coming back from major injury, so I don't expect any movement on his future really this summer. Even if there was to be kind of interest because of his injury, we don't know how he's going to recover from it or return from it, and clubs will know that as well. I think he's really happy at Arsenal. I think he loves being at Arsenal. He's very passionate about Arsenal. You see that in a lot of things that we've seen of him while he's been out. And I think, again, similar to Saliba, I would be cautiously optimistic. Martinelli is probably the most interesting one of the lot because I feel as though that it's not a bad idea to keep him because I think, and I know that we on this show today, we've had quite a split on the opinion of Martinelli. Some have said, he's not of the level and, we need better than him. And I don't disagree with that. If you can get better than Martinelli, great, go and do it.
Yeah.
But equally, I think he's an important squad member. And I think that we've talked about in shows the need to add rather than replace. And I think we need to add players and add squad depth. But I think if Arsenal were to get like a 50 million plus bid for Martinelli, I think they'd really consider it. I think they really would consider it. Less than 50, I think they'd probably tell the teams where to go. I hope they would anyway.
Yeah.
But 50 million plus for Martinelli, I don't think is a bad deal for Arsenal, really. You look at kind of the deals that have been, Gyökeres is available for 55, 60, potentially. So I don't think 50 million plus for Martinelli is too bad of a deal at all. What do you think about Martinelli's future? What would you do with him if, say, a 50 million pound bid from Spain came in or something?
It's hard for me because I've been a big Martinelli fanboy since he broke through at Arsenal. So I'm on the side of I never want to see him leave, but I'm also on the side of if we can get somebody that's twice as good as him, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But the problem is there's not many players in the world that are at that level that are going to be gettable in any window.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I look at the market at the moment, and I see the centre forward market is, we know what it is. It's Sesko or Gyökeres. That is what you could argue. Ekitike as well is in that mold as well. Player, I think it's worth throwing into the conversation. But But the options on the left, actually, I think there's more kind of a broader sense of players that Arsenal could move to, whether it's Rodrigo or Nico Williams or Rafa Leao or Ademola Lookman or Semenyo or, Brian Mbeumo. I know more right-sided, but, a wide player. I think there is more in the wide market this summer potentially for clubs than there is the centre-forward market. And so I think Arsenal are going to be aware of that, and they'll be looking for those market opportunities. We'll finish with the question that I've been asking everyone, though. Gyökeres or Sesko?
I lean more towards Sesko just because of the age profile. So, and the fact that Bundesliga players tend to hit better than Portuguese players in the Premier League, but not to say that a Portuguese player can't hit in the Premier League.
Sure. No, that's a fair point. The record, you look at players that have moved from the Bundesliga, Aubameyang's record in the Premier League speaks for itself. Erling Haaland's does, Heung-min Son, these players that have moved from the Bundesliga to the Premier League have done well. Not everyone does. Some players don't hit as you might expect them to, but there's a lot of really good examples from the Bundesliga, but there isn't from Portugal,
yes.
Which is why we can say that as a fair argument. Carl, thank you so much for your story and for your words as well.
Thank you so much.
Mate. Thank you. And that rounds off today's show. Thank you so much to all of you for listening. Thank you so much to our callers today for jumping on, especially at short notice. I literally decided at 4:00 this afternoon to do this. In this one, I was like, do I do a normal show and just talk about the news? And I was like, well, if I do a normal show, I'm going to have nothing to talk about tomorrow. So it made sense, didn't it, to do this phone-in show? And of course, we like to do these at the end of the season and get people on the show and get your thoughts on as well. And I think we've done that really good spectrum of views, and some people that agree, some people that don't. And I think that shows you kind of how broad the view is right now. If you've been listening to this and enjoyed what we've discussed, or maybe you've got some thoughts on what we have, make sure you let us know. I'd love to read back through your comments in the comment section below. Keep it respectful, keep it clean. As always, people have different opinions too. That's life. Just try and respect them and challenge them, absolutely, but challenge them with facts. Challenge them with examples. Give a reason to your argument. Don't just go, that guy talked rubbish. Tell us why. Give us your reasons. I'd love to read them through. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning for, finally, the first episode of the Arsenal Transfer Show for this summer window, episode 570, I think, whatever it is. But thank you to you all for listening. It's been a great pleasure, and I'll be back with you tomorrow. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful, and as always, up the Arsenal.